Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome His Excellency, the Mayor of the City of Belleville, Neil Ellis. Good morning.
Good morning, Lorne and Scotty.
Welcome to the program. Yesterday, I took some staff members out for lunch downtown to Earl and Angelo's, and for fun, we parked in the mayor's spot, and we were going to come up and visit you. You weren't there. You were off lunching at some private club somewhere for the rich and famous. And number two, apparently you do something really nice with your parking spot, and you raise some funds. So I feel bad because we were trying to play a joke and park in the mayor's spot, but actually somebody pays some money for charity to park in the mayor's spot.
What I've done is auctioned my spot off. We have United Way fundraising in City Hall. So
Yeah.
I auction it off City Hall employees, and the money goes to United Way.
That's good. I noticed you were parked 2 spots ahead. Is that the backup mayor's spot?
That's the backup.
No.
No, that's a $300 fine.
Yeah, no. Anyways, that's a really good thing for you to do. So good on you on that one. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay. But we would like to see your office one day. Can I come up? I haven't been invited to the Intel. They won't have me up there. Would you have me in your office
You
for a
could come
coffee?
and actually, you and Scotty can come and hang one day with me. Yes, Scotty's been there. So next week.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that'd be fun. That'd be fun. We should. That's right. That would be Parliament Hill, Scotty. Okay.
Live from Council Chambers.
All
Lorne
right.
Brooker.
So, Mayor, today is a very important day for the population of the city of Belleville. There is this campaign that is on right now called Build Belleville. And this city, like any other city, has its issues that needs to be dealt with, and it will never end. As I look at this list, we have $400 million. That's almost $500 million in upgrades and needs for the community. And obviously, we don't have $400 million, and nobody does. And that's if you took everything, and if Bill Gates came or Warren Buffett and said, hey, I love this place, and wrote a check, that'd be awesome. Not going to happen. So we've had this opportunity, I guess you could say, to build Belleville. So tell us, Mayor, what is that all about?
Okay, and I guess maybe if we start where I started in 2006, I became mayor, and we looked at that point, council was of the day starting to look at their assets, but they weren't there on an asset management plan. So driven by staff, we've been able to look at the assets we have as a city, add it all up, and basically get an amount of what repair needs to be completed on these assets. 2006, basically, councils before that were spending approximately around $15 million a year to fix our capital assets, that's being sewers, waters, roads, fire halls, police stations. Which basically, if having over $3 billion worth of assets, if you're spending $15 million, you're basically doing maintenance. That's all. So you're not getting ahead of that debt load of problems that need to be fixed. So 2006, the strategy of past councils were keep going, pay as you go, put it on the taxes, and doing that is like making minimum payment on your credit card. 2006, we come in with a strategy of we need to go pay as you go and approach federal and provincial governments and say, look, we provide 66% of the services. We receive about 8 cents on every tax dollar collected. And we need more money from you guys. You have more taxing powers, whether it's income tax, driver's license, all the taxes that the upper governments have. In the first 4 years, from 2006 and 2010, council that I headed was able to receive approximately over $100 million from federal and provincial governments. We fast-tracked a lot of infrastructure over the last 6 years. We've spent, with the help of federal and provincial governments, about $36 million a year.
Well, let's think of some of the things. We have the Sports and Wellness Center, right?
Yeah.
We have the new the Veterans Bridge. What are some of the other things that...
Myers Pier, for instance, that's been in the news in the last few days. So Myers Pier, road work, Sydney and Bridge, Stream Bridge, Bridge in Canifton. You look at industrial land is starting to be serviced. Road work, Dundas Street. Most councils.
The fact is, and I think what people have to know is that I liken it to this, and tell me if I'm wrong here. I think it's fun to go buy something cool for the house, a new TV or an awesome new suit. Well, I wouldn't love that, but that, or go out on a vacation. But sometimes you have to spend your money on unsexy things like new roof or you need to fix the cracks in your basement foundation, or you need to replace your furnace. And these are some of the things that we're talking about. They may not be the super sexy things that people are thinking about, but unless you fix that furnace or your roof, your house is going to leak and it's going to be a big problem.
Classic example is our wastewater plant, or affectionately known as when you flush your toilet, where everything goes. We've spent, I believe, about close to $1 million a year on that over the last 7 years. Some years it might have been $500,000 or $600,000 on a maintenance program. It still needs, in probably the next 2 or 3 years, $10 million of an infrastructure investment. So having said that, the first 4 years we've been able to work away and knock off about probably $100,000 to $150,000 in the deficit that we inherited, and also keep the maintenance, basic maintenance.
$150 million.
Yeah, we've done about, I believe, $280 million worth of work in the 6 years. So if you take basic minimums 15. If we're doing basic minimum, that'd be $70,000 or $80,000.
So
$80 million.
So how did this Build Belleville thing come up? I mean, how did we get the
idea?
idea?
So what happened is in 2010, the provincial government basically tightened the purse strings up, and they were going to create a longer-term sustainable infrastructure program for municipalities. They announced that in 2009, 2010. They said we're going to do kindergarten, junior kindergarten, or pre-kindergarten, all-day kindergarten, and we're not going to give you any money for infrastructure. So basically, they cut off the tap at that point. Federal government still gives us about $3 to $4 million in gas tax. We've been pushing the federal and provincial governments. I sit on a few boards. Councillor in Kingston sits on a few boards, and we push together on the federal and provincial and say, look, we need for you guys to provide us with more money. So in the last 2 years, we haven't had any real amounts of provincial or federal money. So it's time to change our strategy. And when we look at do we want to go back to doing basic infrastructure repair and not knocking anything off of the big picture of the $400,000 hole? So the next strategy would be to look at, okay, what are rates of borrowing? The provincial government have a program that locks in for 20 years, locked in at a rate of 3.25%. 2 payments a year that they will loan to municipalities to fix infrastructure.
Up to how much would they loan?
Well, again, our borrowing capacity is, I believe, about $270 million. What staff and we proposed to council was around $80 million to knock off the first stage of the Build Belleville program. Some on council and out in the public feel that maybe we should go and boost that a little bit more. When you look at, there's different parts of the program. For instance, in the program, $15 million has been allotted for road work. When you look at the bridge that we see out the window here at Switz Island, that needs to be repaired, and Dundas Street needs to be repaired. That will eat up pretty well the whole $15 million.
I thought that the CN Overpass Bridge leading to Zwick's was a separate expenditure by council and not part of this build.
Well, we have it grouped in there right now, so I guess depending on that, that's a great question. So on February the 5th and 6th, council will meet of 2 days and discuss where they want to put those projects. Right now, it's probably going to go in the Build Belleville plan, because at the price of the bridge needs to be repaired, we do not have that in capital dollars that we're levying right now in 1 year.
Build Belleville does not happen without the comments and the questions and the suggestions from the residents and the taxpayers of the city of Belleville. And there is a meeting tonight at the Sports and Wellness Center, 7:30 tonight, Mayor.
7:30 tonight. We'll give a little speech and ask any questions and any ideas. And, you know, if there's a better strategy out there, if people can come up with a better idea, we want to hear about it. And, you know, it'd be nice to sit down and hear those ideas. Other cities have been out ahead of us. Ottawa basically did a similar plan and started a couple of years ago. Oshawa, I believe, has done one. London's trying to do one. You know, we have to get ahead. When you look at right now, our building is being held up from low water pressures, low pressure roads are, a lot of them, about 50% of our roads are in need of work, and there's no end to work that needs to be done in the city.
There'll never be an end to the work that needs to be done, as the city is really a living thing, and like all living things, maintenance is required. Maintenance not required on the website. It's buildbelleville.ca, and you can find out all about Build Belleville. You can also have your say. If you can't make it to the meeting tonight, you can certainly give your opinion, and all the councillors and the mayor and everybody involved with Build Belleville will read your opinions and help formulate a decision. Neil is mostly in today to talk about Build Belleville, and Build Belleville is an idea where we we take out a loan, a provincial loan for anywhere. Well, it could be anything, but I think it's going to be around 80 million or so. That number will be discussed, and we're going to spend it on, from what I see, and tell me if I'm wrong, Mayor, 3 main kind of things. Number 1, infrastructure. Number 2, something in the downtown core. And number 3, on a police station. So the first question I have, and let's explore that a little bit if we can, sir. The first question I have is infrastructure. When I think of infrastructure, and tell me what I've missed, I think of roads, sewers, electrical stuff under the roads, everything under the roads, as a matter of fact. Water mains, all that kind of stuff that maybe we don't even think about or pay attention to, but is in the same way we don't think about our heart pumping every day, but we must use it. We use the roads every day. Every time you go to the bathroom in Belleville, and if you're hooked up to our municipal water supply, you utilize those water mains. You utilize all that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of this stuff, what, is 50, 60 years old now, something like that?
Incorrect. And even Dundas Street East that we fixed last year, some of the water pipes were 100 years old that were in the road.
Yeah.
And you hit it bang on with infrastructure. When you look at, if you want to build Belleville site, the website, a video, and Director Bove kind of basically tagged what infrastructure. You use it in the morning when you turn the tap on, and you use it all day when you turn the lights on at night, and that's the infrastructure, what makes our city operate, and what it makes your life easier every day. And right now, there's parts of the city, if we don't get out ahead, we're not going to be able to keep growth going. And in order to keep growing, and we need people to move here and build houses to level taxes off.
Is it all ours? For example, we were talking about turning the lights on, and that's in Belleville, Viridian, up north, Hydro 1. What part do they own of that stuff?
Well, see, Viridian is 13% owned. We're 13.46, I believe. Belleville owns that, so we do, and it's not in our budget. It's actually in the Viridian budget, but that's 13% of that infrastructure. But Viridian does look after. They do a far better asset management plan, and looking after their assets as a utility. It's run as basically a corporation separate from municipalities. And when something's broken, we fix it, and we have an aggressive capital plan.
So if something of theirs breaks underground, we
the city doesn't fix it, but we're responsible for 13% of the bill.
13% of the bill.
So.
Now, but they must look at it, if we're ripping up Dundas Street and they have some old stuff in there, that's an opportunity for them to get in and upgrade.
But that is part of our project also, depending on if wires are underground. So basically, that's an upgrade we would have to pay for that. And
isn't that ideally, new subdivisions, new builds, you put as much as you can underground, right?
Correct, but it's expensive. So,
sure.
For instance, Campbell Street, I believe the electrical bill to bury that on that was about an extra $300,000 to $400,000 we had to put in for our own money to upgrade the electrical.
They could just hand you a shovel.
We could do that.
And you can get on it. Okay, so are there any specific areas, and this is where this becomes a discussion for our entire community. So where do we need infrastructure work now?
Yeah, and so when you go back to immediate and out there, water main. So basically at night, right now when we fill our reservoirs and our tank, we have 3. I believe it starts about 11 o'clock at night and runs to about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Basically in the industrial park, the factories that need water or high pressure water at night are lacking that because we're filling our reservoirs. North of the 401, water pressure is lacking in second story houses, and at night also when we're filling reservoirs. Basically, there's scheduled a water main, a made feeder main, which has been on the books probably for 10 years. We started it and put it over Veterans Bridge. The water main has to go from Veterans Bridge to the water treatment plant on Dundas. So basically up Sydney Street, down Bridge Street, down Yeoman Street, through the railroad tracks, up to Quinney Gardens, down in behind Quinney Gardens, all the way down Donald Street to Riverside. That will fix the water pressure problem. That project alone is about $15 million. If we don't get that project, I would think, done in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll probably looking at the risk of being shut down totally on any new growth north of the 401.
So you're saying when these discussions come up, this is priority number one, get that water.
Water main would be priority number one. We started it when we built Veterans Bridge. The water main has to end up at 401 Park, where you park your car, or if you're going to go on the 401 and share. There's a water pumping station that sits back in the woods. We hung the water main off the Veterans Bridge. If you walk under Veterans Bridge, the water main is there. So we've got it across the river, which was one of the hardest parts. We dug up the park, and it's down at the end, right around West Moira. It's sitting there now. So now we have to hook into it and get it to the water plant. That, in the Build Belleville plan, is scheduled to be done in the next 2 years. Whether we can aggressively get it done in 1 year. Water main, I believe, it'd be a 12 or 14-inch main with no connection direct to the water plant.
Okay.
Or to the water station from the water plant.
Okay. Let's move on and talk about downtown.
Yes.
So downtown is another issue mixed in with a whole bunch of issues that money necessarily won't fix either.
Yeah, and so downtown, when you start with residential growth, we had somebody interested, and we still have them interested in building a condo on the Riverfront Trail, but we do not have, again, it's back to pipes, we do not have the capacity in the road under Front Street to build any more high-density residential in the downtown core. The roads are wore out downtown. If you walk and look at the ruts, the sidewalks are wore out. The brickwork, it's pretty well done. Its life cycle was done about 35 years ago. To start to look at downtown, we have a good basic. The bones are there. You look at the restaurant district, you look at the banks. Most downtowns that are successful are trying to bring more residential components or living into the downtown core. In order to do that, and for instance, you look at the Hotel Quinny that unfortunately had its demise. Where is that going? If somebody's scheduled to put a high-rise condominium, high density on that property, if that was to happen, we probably wouldn't have the capacity to build that right now because the actual pipes going to the sewer plant aren't big enough.
Okay, so let's get back to downtown. Yeah, it needs new roads.
Yep.
Yeah, it needs new sidewalks. And I think it's a great idea. What you're essentially saying is we need people to live down there, and it's not going to be the mall, and it's not going to be a box store strip mall. It's got to be something unique, and you mentioned restaurants, and we have the theater and all that kind of stuff. How do you start to change? Because I've said this on the air, and I truly believe it. You could literally paint it with gold, but until the perception from the population changes about downtown, and perception is reality. Whether it's reality or not, we've got an issue. So how do you start working on the perception?
And that's a great question. We had a talk. Last week we brought that up in a meeting, and it's about your brand and it's about your reputation. So you look at urban legend and perception. What you look at, does downtown have to work at building a better brand? And if you have a better brand, then when something goes offside, your reputation will bounce back quicker. When you look at what we have downtown, you see some investment coming in. For instance, I opened Incredible Arrangements.
Edible arrangements.
Incredible. It's incredible.
It's an incredible edible arrangement.
So, just before Christmas, gentleman's out of Oshawa, has a store there. I said, you have another store, same store in Oshawa. I see the courthouse going. I see that the city's investing in their downtown. I want to get here at the first wave. So people are looking in the outside, and when you hear that, the guy's Oshawa, he's going investment of $200 million in the courthouse. He sees what we're proposing for downtown, figures if he gets in now, he's at the first of the wave. What comes first, I guess, and it's the chicken or the egg theory. When you look at other downtowns, Mayor Williams, I spoke to him last week about his. They've done it over, John started when he first became mayor 6-7 years. He's been putting $1 million to $2 million in a year. I believe he's going to be at about a $20 million investment in his downtown after this year, over the 7-year period he's been mayor. It's starting to come back. I believe he's plus 12 in stores. He's having a little bit of residential move in, and it's happened for him. Cities like London have invested hugely in their downtown, and it's hard to compare a bigger city like London, greater population, and they put their rink. Their residential growth in downtown, their last census, I believe, was around 17% growth in residential downtown. I believe their outside of their downtown was at single digit 1, 2, 3% in their wouldn't even be 3%. I believe it was 2% in their out of their downtown. So they're having people move in their core. Other cities, whether it's Huntsville, Collingwood, these cities have come back to looking at their downtown core. And I think what you see is we went to a big box mall type shopping, and it's coming back. Our age or generation are now going back. We're tired of going to the mall, seeing the same stores, seeing all the chains. If you want something different, you have to explore your downtown.
Well, I hear what you're saying. I don't think we're tired to go to the mall. I just think we know what the mall is there, and the mall provides a wonderful service for the things that we require at the mall. And that's what I have been saying for years. I know that's what you've been saying. That's what counselors have been saying. That's what tons of people have been saying, that service cannot be provided. The mall, the downtown is not a mall, right? The days of us going down to Leslie's Limited to buy and this and it's different. So let's make it different. It's a big task. Will this Build Belleville make a difference?
It's going to start at downtown. I think when you look at what Mayor Williams has put into his downtown over the few years, and his downtown is smaller. It's basically some side streets and straight. 15 million will be a start. It'll probably do a block and a half of downtown.
Mm-hmm. So we're not talking, is Campbell, is that dead?
No, Campbell's been passed. So it's was an over tender because of, again, pipes that had to be fixed and staff.
It's a springtime job.
So it's a springtime. It's supposed to go out for retender again.
Okay. So hopefully it can get done before it snows again.
Yeah. Construction takes a while, but there's lots of good things happening in our city, and when you look at, for instance, this year we were able to fix one of the dangerous intersections at Krabby Joe's. That was
it's a beautiful job. Yeah. It makes going up North Front Street. I think everybody would agree. Great. Now we got to fix the corner of Bell Boulevard and Sydney.
Yeah, and those are the next two: Bell Boulevard and Sydney and Tracy. Those are the next two dangerous intersections. Yeah. That probably should be in the Build Belleville plan as part of the road work, and to come back and start knocking off the intersections. What staff, and we've challenged staff to do, is say, okay, look at all our bridges. We have to do bridge reports under our legislated every 2 years. I believe we have to have inspections on them. Give us a list of the worst bridges. We'll start knocking them off. Give us the list of the worst roads, and do a 4 to 5 year capital plan that our assets, these are ones that have to be put forward. From there, we have to look out 5 years, what's going to happen 5 years. And when you look at what's been in the news, the coal tar that I look out the window down the road, that cleanup is happening, or going to happen probably in the next 2 or 3 years. We're going to be mandated. You look out your window, Switz Island, there's another dump that we closed. The ministry's monitoring that. There needs to be some money put into that. So we have so many contingent liabilities that are there that we haven't allotted for.
Yeah, red light standards at soccer fields, not necessarily a good thing.
No. So it's I think you have to look at the bigger picture outside. We can't keep functioning in 1 year cycles.
Was this just? And maybe you don't want to comment on this. Maybe this is something that talk show hosts and editorial people like Chris Millette comment on. But is this just a lack of proper work being done? I mean, you talk about Zwicks and the idea of going over and making it's a beautiful park, but then did anybody ever think about the buildup? I mean, are there not scientists who would say, you know what, you're going to be sitting under a whole bunch of methane right now? So all these things we're talking about.
It was closed to the day standards of the day. So having said that, 67, I believe, is when the park was started. So I remember when it was a garbage dump myself. 65 environmental rules, 1965, 66, in that range, were nowhere near what they are today. If it had to be close to today's standard, it would be something that I don't think the city could afford.
Yeah.
Again, but how, as stewards of our community, when you look at it, if we know there's stuff leaching from a site, or you look at the classic example of our wastewater treatment. We had 5 semi-treated, and the engineers they give me heck for this. It's not untreated sewage. It's partially treated overflows into the bay last year. The year before we had 5 also wet weather flows. How many are acceptable?
Well, none.
Okay, so in order to do that, we have to put in holding tanks that will capture our flow. Ministry guidelines right now, I think they want to get them to about 80% recovery. So if your water that you're treating needs to be 80% treated, we're not meeting those standards when we're having 5 pump outs. Last summer wasn't a wet winter or wet summer. So we have to look at that. Is 5 acceptable? You say none are acceptable. In order to fix that, totally, it's probably about a $40 million fix. Where do we start?
None of this. But right now we are talking about the Build Belleville program, and this is an idea where we are, if you're just joining us, going to take a low interest loan, pay it over 20 years, and really fix some of the things that need to be fixed. It's going to be discussed by council and has to be approved. When's that happening? Will that be happening at your general budget meeting in a few weeks?
Well, hopefully we're going to have closure on this on the 5th or 6th of February is the actual meeting. Budgets wouldn't be passed totally, and I think, overall, so basically staff have been tasked with, okay, take our business plan and look at what the critical issues are. So staff are going to deliver those issues on the 5th or 6th. Council will have time to discuss it. These are business plans that we've all voted on and look at every year. I've asked council or citizens if there's anything extra they would like or think we should look at.
So they're going to give you a list of what needs to be done.
Correct.
And because you would literally sit there for weeks trying to go over, no, I think we should do this. So somebody's got to narrow it down, and we've entrusted the staff.
To move it back, we have a business plan. So this business plan that we discuss every year basically has the needs going forward for the next 10 years.
So we have a bit of an idea.
So for instance, industrial park, I believe staff allotted $5 million in roads for the industrial park. They have the list of roads and sidewalks they want to do in the.
If you want to find out more about this, information meeting tonight, as we mentioned, 7:30 at the Sports and Wellness Center. For those of you who do not know what that is, that's the Quinte Sports Center. So head up there, 7:30, and if you can't get there tonight, go to buildbelleville.ca. and you can have your say on the website and find out all about this plan as well. Before we move on to some of the other issues, there's one more major thing about this Build Belleville program, and that will finally get Chief McMullen and the Belleville Police Service a police station. And I say that with tongue-in-cheek, but the fact of the matter is, I don't spend a lot of time in the police station. You don't. Scotty, our producer, has spent tons of time there. But the fact of the matter, really, it's not appropriate on so many levels for our police service. It's not appropriate for our community. And so some of this money will go to build a police station.
Yeah, and it's in there. And first I want to say, in our business plan that I talk about, and it's a public document done in the public, the police station was scheduled for 2014 to start. So it seems like the never-ending story, and there's been a lot of meetings.
It is a never-ending story, yeah.
It's a good headline. So we're right on schedule for the police station. By putting it in the Build Belleville plan, we look at putting it at the cheaper financing and locking in for 20 years. A building like that should have about a 30 to 40 year life cycle, so the building would be paid for and still have a great life cycle. Concerns of some people are, if you're going to borrow this money, hopefully you're not buying groceries with it, something that will last maybe in your fridge a week, and my fridge less than that. Everything or any of the items in here all have a life cycle of 30, 40, 50,
I think what
60
people
years.
are saying, Mayor, not to put words in your mouth, but what people are saying is, if we're going to borrow this money, we need to fix this stuff and build this stuff, do it right the first time. And I know there are issues that are happening with the Sports and Wellness Center. I think everything's a learning experience. That one is still going to play out, and we'll find out more about this. And generally, if you talk to 10 people and you say, okay, for $2,300 we can fix your roof, for $2,600 the best person in town can fix your roof, most likely they're going to come up with the extra $300.
Yep, and it's unfortunately with municipalities because it's and there's other reasons, and I guess that's the simple and short. We have a tendering process that has to be laid out, and again, that protects myself from hiring you to do all our work.
That's the last thing you want to do. Last thing you want to do. You don't want that to happen.
And it protects Scotty's tax dollar. Unfortunately, we're tagged sometimes to the lowest tender, which sometimes people underbid and then try to go. How do you fix that system? That is something that without getting sued is a tough question. It's something we've inherited, and we've been trying to work with it by doing RFPs instead of tenders and things like that.
What do you want the public to get out of tonight's meeting? What do you want the public to input? How do you want the public to be involved in this?
Well, I think it's. I think the public has to realize, and I think through yourself and the media that we've got it out, and that this problem wasn't created overnight. It's not going to go away overnight. It's something that we inherited that's been passed off by councils and councils and councils. So I have a choice of a mayor of either not doing anything and passing it off to the next council and passing it off to the next council, or having a strategy to fix it. I've laid a strategy out that will fix a third or less of that than the infrastructure. And then from there, we have to, after Build Belleville 1, we have to have a Build Belleville 2. This will basically plan, probably will be a 4-year build out, whether I'm in this chair, meaning here talking to you in 4 years as mayor.
I'm hoping we get new chairs by then.
Yeah.
At least we're getting a little shot.
That we should be fixing the rest of our infrastructure. Cities like Ottawa, I believe their date on theirs, and I got to pull this out of long term, it's 2017, 18. They've set a date and said, okay, this is where we're going to have our infrastructure fixed and up to standards. They've had to go back because roads, they didn't put enough in for roads. It might, believe Ottawa was a 10-year plan. They started two, so it might be 2020. But they at least have a plan. We have no plan. We've never had a plan. That's what we've been trying to get.
What are people saying to you, Mayor? Are they coming up to you saying, "Let's borrow the money, let's get this done"?
I spoke through. I've done 4 speeches on it: Probus, Kiwanis, Rotary, and Belleville Sales and Ad. 100% behind it, and said, basically, how much of a tax increase? We can do this for a 0 tax increase. What it's going to defer other things. We've suggested for 0, anywhere from 0, 1, 2 to 3%. I think council's probably leaning towards a 1% tax levy on infrastructure. Cities like Brockville, Kingston, Mississauga have done that for a while.
So you're saying my tax bill will go up 1% to fix this?
Just for the Build Belleville plan. So it doesn't do the day and operate. And that's if council wishes. They could do it with 0. They could do it with 1. They could do it with 2. When you look at your assets and people at Probus and that have said to me, you have to pay for it sooner or later. So when you look at construction costs over the last decade have gone up, I think, about 52, 53%. If we don't fix this right now, the $400 million problem or start, it's just going to start doubling and doubling. Because cost of construction has gone up.
No, yeah, sure.
Hugely.
I mean, people paid. There are people listening who paid $17,000 for their house, and it's worth, $150,000.
My first house when I got out of university, first mortgage, I paid 19% in 1984.
Yeah.
Bought a house 2 years later, locked in at 10% for
well,
5 years.
this is the thing. The thing is, the terms are good. If you're going to do it, you're not going to get much better terms.
Lowest
than this.
rates have been since the war. Yeah.
Okay. Think the council's behind you on this?
They seem to be. Again, we've asked, and I've asked council to say, go out and talk to people. Go out, talk to your friends, go out to talk to business people, get their ideas. We've opened the website up for emails, and ask them if there's a different strategy. So, again, if there's something different that we should be doing, we need to hear it. By not doing anything, any of the projects, passes it off to the next council.
Is this something that you would place your mayoralty on?
Yeah,
by saying
100%.
If this fails, that you're done. You just.
Well, again, it's hard.
But you know what I'm saying. Like,
well,
this isn't important. This is something you want to leave to the community.
Well, I sat up in the Empire Stage, both elections, and said that I'm going to run and fix your infrastructure. I think everybody that ran for this council, I could be wrong, said we're going to fix your infrastructure. So by doing that, here's a plan to fix your infrastructure, or partly and get there. If I don't do anything, I'm a lying politician. So I was elected on saying I'm going to fix your roads, I'm going to fix your bridges, I'm going to fix your water plant, I'm going to fix your wastewater plant, which other mayors wouldn't do. They couldn't figure out a strategy. I'm here, I'm going to do it. If it costs me my job, then I don't want to do this job, because that's a promise I made and was elected on.